Hi guys, welcome to Braving It. With me is a dear friend of mine, Tish Magongwa. Tish, how are you, babe?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Listen, thank you for braving this platform. It's not everyone that says yes, by the way. This is some brave stuff. So thank you so much for coming.
No, only a pleasure. I think it's great for us to actually interact and chat and just brave it out together here.
100%. And look at you. So I was thinking, listen, when I was getting ready this morning, I was like, what's I can go back to this bow? Ask her, she must not see it coming. Get a bob. Get a, hey, I know you're always looking good.
You look
so let me meet you halfway. And then I was like, just be yourself, girl. You know, who are you trying to impress? So thank you so much for coming once again. Listen, I believe you have a strategic marketing consultancy company that you have founded, Sanatle Consulting. Mm-hmm. You also have a life coaching practice, Sanatle Coaching.
Yes.
And how is that going, by the way, the coaching bit?
I think it's going really well. It's, I guess, an opportunity for me to help as many people as I possibly can through my experiences, through my certification. I'm enjoying interacting with people. I'm enjoying to see their lives transform. So it's going very well, and I'm excited to actually do it because I think this is my calling.
So exactly that. You are the perfect person to bring onto this platform, because really the platform exists to empower and enrich people, to give them tools to navigate their everyday.
Yeah.
And that's why I thought you were so fitting to have this type of conversation, because you and I have had very insightful conversations that I felt could just not remain here, that they needed to be out there, extended to everyone else so they could navigate their everyday. How I met Tish was some 16, 17 years ago, and I met you at your wedding. Literally, I did not know you, but I just showed up because
the extra guest,
a plus one. I was a plus one, and at the time, I escorted my then boyfriend, who is now my husband. And a few years later, we were so inspired by your love that we decided to follow suit and get married as well. And naturally, I think that's where our friendship was established and solidified, was through the marriage, you know, because our husbands were good friends and still are. And so I want to ask, because years later, you guys then decided to get divorced. A decision that I assume could not have come easy.
Yeah.
And so I must ask, how did you, on the notion and the topic of divorce, how did you know that this was it, that there was nothing else and that the best route to take is this one? Because I think a lot of people struggle with arriving at that point, because you keep thinking, no man, more therapy, more this, more that, I haven't done enough. How do you know when this is the right decision to take?
Well, I don't know at that point you feel like it's the right decision. For me, I was at a crossroads. I could go one route or another route and turn right or left.
Yeah.
So when I was actually at the fork, I actually realized I wasn't happy. I I didn't know who I was when I looked at myself in the mirror. I no longer felt, the joy of being in the marriage, and I don't think I was necessarily serving it.
Okay.
And I also, I became a person that I knew this is not the woman my mother had raised me to be. And even my parenting, I felt like I was, snapping at my kids. I wasn't my best version of myself. And I knew I had to make a change. I had to make a change for the better. And I started to visualize what would life look like beyond this. Because, I had so many negative, toxic feelings. I was angry, I was upset, I was sad, I was frustrated. And then, you have to put on your big girl panties, show up at the office, be a daughter, be a friend, be everything to everybody else except yourself. And we had tried everything. And I think we worked at it quite a lot. And it wasn't working, and it wasn't serving me. And it was, I think, over a couple of months or even years that I came to that decision. So it wasn't like I woke up one day and I decided, okay, this is it. I just knew I had to feel better inside, within. And so for me, the process and the journey was about how do I get to that happy space. And I actually visualized that if I wasn't in that particular space, I could be happy again. And I could be the best version with even my ex-husband and my kids and my mom and everybody else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's so interesting because I hear this a lot where people say when you are in a marriage setup, happiness is an inside job. It's something that you must derive within yourself and, then spread it out. And so how much of him did you expect to fill up your cup so you could be happy? Because you spoke about how you weren't happy, how you were struggling with so-and-so. I'm just trying to equate his, contribution into your happiness versus your own contribution into you being happy.
That's a very good question. Because I was also very young and he was the first love of my life that I actually had. I think my expectation was that he needed to make me happy. And so I had, I think, a lot of expectations and unfairly so put on him to make me happy. And when those were not being fulfilled, I then became unhappy. And I think that also built up over time, and a lot of things in terms of, there was avenues that I could have actually taken that was better, especially from a communication side, to say, I'm unhappy about A, B, C, and D. What I tried to do is sweep things under the rug for peace sake sometimes. That came to bite me later. So I think, to answer your question really clearly, I think it was really the expectation of me onto him, for him to fill my cup. But as you grow and you navigate life as you know it, you find happiness within yourself. And that's a journey that I actually identified I needed to do for myself, to go onto that journey and find the happiness for myself.
So 11 years married, two children later, how do you have that kind of conversation with your children? The conversation around you guys deciding to part ways?
Shaliraj, it was not easy, because I was ill-equipped to have the conversation, what I did is that I solicited the advice of a child psychologist. Because I didn't know what to say, how do I structure the conversation?
Interesting.
So they gave me the tips of how to actually structure it, what to stay away from. And that actually gave me such good insights, because then I knew I didn't quite know how to say, because as much as they give you the tips of the trade, when you're sitting in front of these small little faces and you're about to shatter their world, no amount of pre-training can actually prepare you for that moment. So for us, it was be honest with them. And also just to shed some light of what's going to be happening in the future, but also giving them that security that it doesn't matter that we're not going to be living in one household. But the love that we have between all of us is what's going to sustain them and pull them through the whole journey.
And I know you value your mother, you value her opinion, you guys are very close.
Yes.
How did she receive it?
Sure, she was, I think the word I'm looking for here is she was broken. The news really broke her. It hurt her because she had such a good relationship, not just with myself, but with my ex-husband as well. They were very close. They're still very close today.
Good.
She never saw it coming because I was fiercely protective of our marriage. So even if we had issues and problems in the marriage, it was my responsibility to make sure that I protect our marriage, and I never told her anything. So the only thing that she just saw was this picture perfect couple who never fought, not even one day in front of her. And then all of a sudden, she's receiving this news. So she couldn't quite process it. She was like, where's this coming from? You know, you guys are happy. You guys don't fight. I don't necessarily see this every single day.
Yeah.
So it really broke her. And for me to deliver those type of news to her, I knew the impact it would have. I mean, she was, I think, sick for a little bit after receiving that news. And she couldn't quite comprehend it. She took quite a while to process it. And then she took her time later on. She sat with me and then she called him as well. She sat with him as well, asked the relevant questions, you know, just to get some sort of peace of mind and clarity for herself in terms of what happened or what went wrong.
So basically, you were never that daughter who calls mom to say, you know, I'm so tired of the way he does this. I'm so tired of the way he says that. Because that's what we do. So I understand protecting him, not, calling your friends to vent about something, but with your own mom. So that never happened. You never called your mom and were like, what's about today on? One more thing.
Not necessarily with my mom. I think the person who filled that role was my sister.
Okay. So she saw it coming.
She saw it coming.
Okay.
We are 2 years apart and we're as close as it ever can get in this world. So she was always the one who was pushing me to make it work, giving me advice, try this, try that.
Yeah.
Whereby with my mom, I've always tried to protect her.
Okay.
Because she's an insomniac and I don't want, when she stresses over something, she doesn't sleep. And I never wanted to put any type of heavy burden on her because she does so much for us already, So, so my sister was the pillar for me.
People say that divorce in its very nature is one of the worst things that a person could possibly go through. Do you echo that sentiment, or was yours fairly matured in how things unfolded?
Oh, no, absolutely not. No, I think the word for it is asitakaya motu. Asitakaya motu divorce. So even though I initiated it and there was some prep work I did before, it still knocked me for a loop. At that particular point in time, as you're going through it, it does feel like it's the worst thing. Because it affects, I think, your trifecta, your mind, your body, your soul. From a mind perspective, your mind starts playing tricks on you. You start questioning yourself, you're in a negative state, everything you know is basically shifted from you. And the negative narrative that keeps on looping around your head, it doesn't serve you. I started to question myself, am I doing the right thing? I'm destroying my kids, my home, my family.
Yeah.
So you've got your mind. The body was showing me flames.
How?
Stress manifests itself in the most unpleasant ways. So I had a horrible breakout. I was taking Buscopan Co every day that you have to take via prescription because I had horrible stomach cramps every single day. I could not sleep.
Sure.
So I was like, I couldn't actually recognize myself. And from a soul perspective, my relationship with God really deteriorated. I was not plugged in. I felt like I was unearthed. I was not centered or plugged into anything. I felt like even my prayers were like bouncing off of a ceiling. I didn't feel that God was receiving them. As much as I was praying, I just felt like, I was just floating around. So at that point, definitely yes, it felt like it's the worst thing that could ever happen to me at that point in time.
Sure, I've never heard it being described that way. I guess people just say it is possibly the worst thing you could possibly, but to that point where you touch on the soul, the consequences that the soul feels, the body, the mind, all of it. But with all of that said, how long has it been now, the divorce? How long?
It's been 7 years now.
It's been 7 years.
Yeah.
So safe to say you've healed from that. You've turned your wounds into wisdom, hence the life coaching, which I'll come to later on.
Yes.
Yeah? And where are you guys now? You guys are in a happy place, as far as I know, right?
Most definitely. No,
Yeah?
we are in a happy place because I think we came from a foundation of friendship first.
Nice.
So we've always been there. And I think also his personality is, he's such a light-hearted person. You know him. Like, he's funny, he's easygoing. So, you know, he's not a person who made the process difficult for me because I always said he always had a good heart. And he still does, even today. So I was fortunate not to be in a boat of, you know, the people who are with narcissists, you know, people who are terrible. Our journey was quite different from, I think, a lot of people, that we're not fighting about a lot of things. Finances, kids, agreeing on certain things. Our journey was, I think, as seamless as I've seen, you know, when I look at other people, friends, family members who've actually gone through something like this. So yeah, I would say that we're in the best place we possibly can. We always joke around with each other to say, you know what, we're actually co-parent better than we were, you know, in a relationship, in a romantic marriage.
You know, and that's exactly what I want to get into now is a conversation around co-parenting, because you guys do it so well and you're very vocal about it as well. Together are very vocal about how you have really made it work. And that, for me, that speaks to your personalities as individuals. You know, I know you to be a certain type of person. I know him to be a certain type of person. And both people I like. You know, my husband and I are still very good friends with you as Tish and very good friends with him as Cabby. And that is because we just like you guys as people. You are fantastic human beings. And I guess that's why it works so well. The co-parenting idea is that, you know, because you're such great human beings, you're able to come together and see to it that, you know, this is what we're going to design for our children. And I actually want to talk about that because what I did, guys, leading up to this interview is that I thought if we're going to be discussing co-parenting, I have to do it with your ex-husband here. But even if you had said no, I would have gone with that because I want you to be comfortable. But because I knew you were in a happy place, I asked you first. I said, is it okay if I invite your ex into the conversation? Because what we are also not seeing is exes who are in a happy place as individuals and are making it work enough to even sit in one conversation, have it, and be okay with it. All right, so I'm going to ask for your ex to come and join us.
Awesome.
Okay.
Braving it.
Guys.
Let's brave it.
Hey guys, so this is Cabby Magongwa, who is Tish's ex-husband, the guy we were talking about just now. Amazing human being. Thank you for saying yes, Cabby, for coming onto the show.
Pleasure to be here.
It's such a pleasure. Okay, is it awkward, by the way, that you guys are?
Of course not.
Of course
No,
not.
we see each other all the time.
Because of the kids, of course, of course. Okay, all right. So look, guys. The idea of co-parenting for me sounds like something that requires great intention, great maturity from both individuals and commitment. So what does it look like in your world? What did it take to put together something that would work for the both of you? Maybe, Tish, let me start with you.
I must say, it wasn't difficult because we already had a good, I guess, relationship with our kids and a structure when we were married. So what we just basically did was replicate it even when we're actually divorced. So everything that we're teaching our kids, our fundamentals, the principles, what we believed in, that's what we shared with our kids. And even if we're not in the same household, we just basically continue to do the same thing.
Okay.
The only difference that came in was obviously having to put in the routines in the different households and come to agree on those type of things. I think I'm more structured, and Cabby is like a happy-go-lucky, easy type of person, you know. But what I appreciate about him is that he quickly understands, you know that kids actually need a routine. They need to be in a, that environment that fosters their growth, their development. And he's like so chilled. He was like, yeah, like I'm a dad. My kids are coming to me, but if they need to go sleep, they're going to go sleep. If I need to do something with them, I'm going to do something, but in his way and not necessarily in my way. And that's where I think the medium had to actually come in to say, we are not the same people. We are completely individuals. We do stuff differently, but at the end of the day, we've got our best kids' interest at heart.
Sure. You know, when you spoke about doing things your own way and him doing things his own way, you, friend, are very structured. I think, listen, you, I don't want you to just gloss over that. Yes. Also, yes. And time is a big thing in your life. Guys, we could be meeting Tish for coffee, drinks. This girl is there before the time. You should have seen me on the highway. So I told Tish to be here at about 9:15. And I said I would be at 8:30. Highway.
I actually messaged Lerato this morning at about 6:30. I said, I'm going to be here on time. I won't let you down. I won't disappoint you.
I'm not even worried about you. I'm worried about me, big man. I know me. And so, but what I like about you is that even when someone is running late, like you're not sour. You know, you don't make the person feel like, no, ain't like you know, ain't like, you're still so positive and such a beautiful spirit. So thanks for that. But I wanted to ask you, with you doing things, Cabby, your own way and knowing how structured, you know, Tish is and how diligent she is with time, does that still work for you outside of the marriage? Because I'm sure when you were married, you were naturally trying to appease all the time. You know, I can't make my wife upset. I can't be late. I can't. But now that you're not married to her anymore, are you still committed to the way she likes things done?
Yeah, so what's great about it is that I don't have to do it all the time. I only have to just do it at the time that we need to meet up, which is great because the rest of the time is my way.
Yeah.
So if you had to like just sacrifice in those times that you gotta meet, man, it's not a thing. You know, it's like something that you just do not only to keep the peace, but you know that it's gonna be a harmonious type of environment, interaction. So yeah, it doesn't really bother me.
It doesn't bother you?
It doesn't bother me.
Because it's not every day.
It's not every day.
Yes.
And I think that's probably one of the things that in marriage you worry about, because you know half the time you're living to try and be like somebody else. And when you're being yourself, you're not necessarily your best self. And that also starts to eat up into what you were really all about. But when you know that it's something that you can visit, I mean, anybody can sacrifice for the, you know, hour, 2 hours, or whatever the time that the interaction time it is. But the rest of the time, man, you can live your free life.
What I liked about what you said earlier on, Tish, about how you've really just designed this co-parenting plan. What you said is that you brought in a lot of what was already there into the now. Did you feel at any point that you guys needed to sit together and literally write down things and talk about things? So I'm just trying to see how easy was it. Yes, you brought in a lot of things from what was currently, you know, in the past, but didn't you sit at some point and document something that you both have to abide by so that you avoid disappointment along the way?
Well, I think the divorce agreement will have obviously like certain clauses that you put into place in terms of the kids' visitation. If it's Mother's Day, you get, you know, just the standard basic stuff.
Okay.
I think we put it in there because those are the general terms and conditions that a normal divorce decree actually has. Okay. But I think we knew over and above that we're not necessarily going to live by the guidelines of what was in that black and white document. We're just going to freestyle it based on what our kids' needs are, based on what our needs also are going to be. So I think it was just a lot easier to say, you know, even if we said I'm going to have, I used to have the kids almost every 2 weeks, and Cabby used to give them every second weekend. But I think for the past 2 years, we've now switched it that I have them 1 week and he also has them 1 week.
Okay.
But we've been very flexible. So if he's traveling and he needs me to take the kids a little bit longer, then obviously I step in and we ask each other favors. Sometimes I can't fetch because I'm in a meeting or whatever else that maybe we communicate very quickly over WhatsApp, say, hey, can you help out? You know, this is what's happening. So we've structured and we've created whatever works for us. So it's not necessarily typed like this is, you know, set in black and white stone. We are flexible.
Okay. So you spoke about that quite a bit, flexibility, you spoke about freestyling, you know. What mistakes, Cabby, did you guys make in the beginning as you were trying to navigate this co-parenting life?
There weren't too many of them.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because the divorce kind of determines the relationship you're going to have, and that determines the kind of co-parenting you're going to have. So for me, I knew that at the level of divorce, I just said, look, whatever you want. I know I was in the wrong, so whatever you want. And that kind of gave us a space to be able to navigate this thing in a more positive, more accommodating way. So a lot of people want to be vindictive during divorce. They want to make sure whether they use the kids, you're not going to see the kids, or you're not going to get money, or, I'll only do this and the law only allows me to pay this much. I literally just opened it up and I was like, I'll spend whatever it is that I need to spend, because for me, if I'm serious about my kids being happy, their mother must be happy. So it wasn't about, okay, I'm not with her and therefore let me see her suffer and expect my kids to be good. So in that, I found that, and it was natural for me. I didn't go to see anybody, didn't see a therapist. I just figured, you know what, the best thing that I can do, and I said it even in divorce, is say, because I am who I am, the best way to love you is not to be there. So I was loving her without me being romantically in love with her.
Wow, that's...
Understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So in that, for me, was the basis of what the rest of our lives was going to look like. I knew that, I had my own struggles, just like anybody else. And in really trying to make sure my kids get the best life, their mother must really, truly be happy. Wow. And that is where it got us to where it is. So I was literally agreeing to everything that she wanted. And this is why we're here now.
That's earlier on when I started out, I spoke about great maturity, and that's what you've exemplified throughout this journey. And you spoke about whatever it takes. Basically, I'm paraphrasing, whatever it takes to ensure that she's happy so my kids are happy. So talking about happiness, I know you've both moved on with your lives. Yeah?
Sure.
You found partners that make you smile, make you happy, and it's working right now. When is the right time to introduce your children to your partners?
Sure.
Cabby.
So for me, it was easy. I'm light on life. I don't have rules and regulations as to when or what must happen, the conditions and all of that stuff. For me, I just go with the flow. I'm that kind of guy. I just go with the flow, and if it feels right, then it's the right time. There isn't any specific time that I thought, okay, this must happen before I do this, that, and the other. And with my current person now, it was really a matter of the fact that we share a child, and therefore I'm not going to let my kids live differently or separately from the one. They must all appreciate me and experience me the same. So it was an easy inclusion of the girls to the rest of the kids.
Did you feel at any point that you needed to consult with Tish about, bringing your partner closer to your children?
At that point, no.
Okay.
Because once you divorce, you live your life, right? But yes, in certain instances, you might feel like it's necessary. Everything's not going to work the same for me, for other people out there. Like I said, for me, it has to feel right for me.
Okay.
And
First.
And if it feels right for me, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, because there will always be different views. She'll have a different view, maybe my dad, my this, but we don't live in that world where you have to make everybody happy. It has to be you who feels right about it, and then you just go with the flow.
Would you echo the same?
100%.
Yeah.
I think, depending on which stage and phase you are in your life personally, when you feel like you're in a relationship and you're ready to introduce your kids to your new partner, you'll know when. Sometimes you'll be dating somebody and you can see that this relationship is going nowhere fast. And it's just a transitional relationship. And then that's when you'll make the judgment call to say, no, this is not the right person to introduce to the kids.
Okay.
But definitely there's no recipe, there's no formula. It's literally knowing for yourself that, this person looks like he's a keeper, or she's a keeper, and they can contribute to well into the kids' lives as well. And so you just literally go with the flow, just like Cabby said.
Okay. Cabby, how much leeway does your partner have in disciplining your children? Now, before you answer that question, I want to expand on that question a little bit more. I recently learned that discipline comes from the word discipleship. So discipleship is really, as you know, it's an act of obedience, an act of living out a certain philosophy, a certain religion, a certain movement. So if you as Cabby have put together principles in your house to say, kids' bedtime is 8 o'clock, there's no eating junk food, there's whatever, the consequences of that is that if you do defy the principles that I've put in place, no tikona, depending on the age, of course, grounding, no laptop, no this, no that. If in your absence, your partner assumes your principles when obviously looking after the children, and the consequence would then be you're grounded, actually go to your room. So what I'm asking now is that how much leeway does she have in disciplining or exercising the discipleship of your principles in your house?
So currently there isn't any. And the reason being that the relationship that she has with the girls, it's very easygoing.
Okay.
There aren't any disciplinary actions that I've heard of, or things that she may have thought were really out of line. Maybe it's how we raise these kids, because they're amazing kids. I also have hardly have to discipline these kids. They are really, truly amazing, but I suppose every parent thinks so. So if that were to happen, if it's yet to happen, I'd leave it up to her to determine how she would like to handle it. But from her perspective is that she would rather leave that to me and their mom.
Okay.
It's not in her place to do that.
So that comes from her.
That comes from her.
And if it didn't come from, if she had taken the responsibility to discipline your children in the form of grounding them, would you still be okay with that?
Of course. I mean, kids will be kids. There has to be some sort of law that governs them. So in a world where there's truly merit and I'm not there for them to be disciplined, of course. Just like I would with, her kids. So ultimately, it really is about that. But yeah, I think we're just blessed that we have really, really, really awesome kids.
And you do. You really
They are
do.
amazing.
They are amazing.
Discipline.
And gorgeous.
Yeah, discipline hardly ever is something to worry about.
Wow. You're lucky as well.
I know.
Blessed. We are blessed.
Thank you. Blessed. Favored. So, Tish, a difficult one for you to answer is if you do introduce your children to your partner and they don't like him, just straight up, don't like Abamufili at all.
Yeah.
Is that enough for you to say, actually, it's not going to work?
I think I'd have to get to the root cause and find out the why. Because I think with kids, even with our kids, there was a stage whereby they wanted their parents back together. And so I knew at that time if I'd introduced anyone, they were not going to be favored at that particular point in time. Because they were seeing a view. Like Cabby and I have always been close. When we go to school functions, we sit next to each other. We've got a playful relationship together. So, and I think the kids were really excited, and I think they had hope that we'd come back together again.
Okay.
So introducing somebody at that point, I know would not necessarily have worked. However, I think it's important to get down to the crux of things. I always say, I believe that kids have got a sixth sense about things that we don't necessarily see as adults because we've lost our innocence.
Sure.
But the kids actually can see it. So for me, it's literally about communication and understanding where is it coming from and addressing it and taking the relevant steps after that to remedy the situation. But I would definitely not force anybody on them because I think when they're home, that's their safety place.
That's it.
They need to feel safe and a place of belonging.
Sure, that's such a matured way of looking at it. So it's not like, hey, get life, yaga. This is my life. Exactly.
I'm feeding you. I'm clothing you. I got a roof on your head. So what do you want?
Fall in line.
Yeah. No, it's important.
Cabby, I think it's Oprah who says to turn your wounds into wisdom. How has this whole journey of divorce, co-parenting translated positively in your personal growth?
Living honestly.
Wow, I love that.
I think, I think as men, we lie, man. We lie. We make promises we can't keep. Nothing sustainable. So you gotta live your honest life and say your piece. It doesn't matter how romantic you need to sound every so often, but say what it is that you want in a relationship, truthfully.
And commit to it.
Because I feel that, a lot of men out there, they say what their wives want to hear, but that is not even sustainable. You can only do it for so long. Women on the other side, they can love you, they can say all the amazing things, and they live it. They don't even have to try. But we always have to, I remember when she used to ask me to write poems. I used to think, my God, I used to Google them and try to come up with something. It wasn't from the heart, but she wanted it from the heart.
Yes.
It wasn't me. She also would ask, so say some nice things tonight. What is this nice thing that I gotta pull something out of a hat? You know what I mean? Like those kind of things.
Yeah.
They could literally blabber on and say beautiful things, and you think, but how do you do it? Just like when you guys pray, you pray better than me. And I don't want to say us as men, because I don't know, maybe some men pray better. But I'll be like, pray all the time. But you'd say, your turn to pray. And I'm thinking, this is going to be hard. So right now, man, I'm living my life as freely and as honestly as can be. And that is the one thing that this gave me.
Wow, the gift of imperfections, hey? Wow.
That's right.
Tish, same thing. I would love for you to take that as well and to answer it, in your own way. How has the journey translated positively in your life?
I think for me it was learning who I was as a person. And it obviously happened over time. I think once I actually got into my 30s and actually looked back and looked at how much I invested more in myself. Because I think when I was married, I was in a space whereby I also wanted to make him happy. I wanted to make my kids happy. I was literally about the home and the family, and I never invested in myself. So in these past couple of years post, I managed to read a lot more self-inspiring books, that have helped me to grow and think differently. I've gone back to my faith, deeply rooted in it. And I got to learn so many other things around, meditating, how do I nurture my body as well, and taking that seriously.
Yeah.
So I invested in myself. I chose me, and I still choose me today, because if my kids want a great mom, I need to be happy. So in every situation that presents itself, I ask myself, is this going to serve me? Is this going to make me happy? And no is an acceptable answer that I've had to learn in this journey, so that I also have peace of mind.
Wow. Yo, hi. No, thanks guys. That was, because genuinely I'm as intrigued as I'm sure everybody else is, because I've never sat with the both of you and asked you, I've actually never sat down and really appreciated what you guys have gone through and what it now means in your lives. And so I'm as fascinated. I'm in my mind, I'm like, what kind of what's the next question? Because I'm so engrossed in what you're both saying. You are really, really, really so inspirational in how you've chosen to now take what you've been through and allow it to grow you, to groom you, so you can live a better life, a more fulfilling life, I suppose. Am I right in saying that you're both now a lot more fulfilled as individuals?
Look, yes, you are, but we have to accept that we grow all the time, right? What it is that you want and what you thought you wanted when you were getting married and in marriage might be something that you just wanted to experience, and maybe you want something different now. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is, or as an advice, is that you might be driven to want certain things, and those things are for the moment. They are not necessarily the things that you want forever. Because as you grow, when you're 20, in your 20s, your ambition and things that you want and the things that you're going through are different from when you're 30, when you're 40, when you're 50. But what for me this has done is it has given me the chance or the opportunity to really live as in how I feel.
Okay.
As opposed to having to commit when you're in your 20s for something that you don't know you're going to be in your 50s. So that for me, and I think that's really where marriages break down, is that, like you do not have, I've always even joked around and say maybe people should get married every 5 years, so that every 5 years you get to realize who you are, things that you want, how different things should be, and then you recommit on the basis of the new person you've become. But when you're young and you're making the rest of your life, a commitment for the rest of your life, that is a big ask.
Sure. That sounds like a whole braving it conversation. Every 5 years.
Opt in or opt out.
Opt in or opt out.
Then you're in because you want to be in, not because you said something like that 5 years ago and then now, or 40 years ago. And that's why you find people who are unhappily married, because now they have to stick to what they said so many years ago. So, and maybe in essence what it means is that people who are married should be able to be open enough to have the same discussions to say, who are we now? How can we be better?
I like that. I like that. A constant work in progress.
Yeah.
The other day we celebrated our 10-year wedding anniversary, and I pulled out the vows from 10 years ago.
You said.
Like, let's see.
You said.
Hey, I'll be with you for hey, I will do this.
The guy thought.
Give me something. Guys, I could go on and on with you guys. I absolutely love you. And thank you so much for having this brave conversation with me. I know that a lot of people would have derived great value from a discussion such as this. So thank you very much, guys. There you have it, Tish and Cabby Magongwa. You know what? The one thing I didn't get into is you've decided to keep his surname. I know a lot of women who want to rid themselves off of that immediately. Why did you decide to keep the surname?
Also, the real reason I actually did it is because I wanted to have the same surname as my kids. I think that's a primary reason. Number two, I didn't want to go to Home Affairs and change my surname there and then change everything else from banks and all of the other details.
Okay.
And thirdly, I think also when you travel, it's just so much easier. So when obviously look at your surname and with the kids, even though you need obviously the relevant documentation, it's just so much easier, ask less questions. So that's the three reasons.
Or if I become a billionaire, it's quite nice.
And that's where you're going, Cabby. Hustler. I want a business today.
Hey, we started time, right? Now it's time back, owned by the billionaire.
Time back, hey, who knows? Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Braving It. Stay tuned, there's many more episodes to come. Please like, share, comment, and most importantly, subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much for watching.